I'm William Kumwembe with Business Time on Times Television, courtesy of Skyband. This is a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And in the program today, FEM sees sustained policy rate stability and trade deficit scares trade center. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned if you could.
Now you can access the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes. Go to www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper. It's about time.
Hello and welcome. And in our first story today, investment management and advisor firm Alliance Capital has said it expects the country's monetary authorities to maintain the policy rate at 14.5% in the near term. In its February 2019 economic report released last Friday, Alliance Capital says inflationary pressures persist from rising oil prices. We have the detail in this report.
Alliance Capital says it expects inflation to fall further, with a major pull coming from flood inflation as the rain season begins to ebb. It says upside risks to inflation include fuel prices that have been rising on the global market. Alliance Capital says given that risks to the inflation outlook seem to be waning, it expects the Reserve Bank of Malawi, RBM, to maintain the policy rate at 14.5% in the near term and revise it downwards when inflationary pressures continue to dwindle. Liquidity levels are expected to continue being relatively high. As such, we expect interbank rates to remain low in the meantime. The firm says the kwacha was relatively stable in the foreign exchange market against the dollar. Despite volatility of the pound and rand, we expect the kwacha to remain range-bound against these two currencies and register very marginal depreciations against the dollar unless dynamic changes considerably. RBM Governor Daleto Kabambe said during the launch of the bank's strategic plan that the institution targets a policy rate of 11% by the first quarter of 2021. In the medium term, the plan is to achieve an inflation target of 5% by the first quarter of 2021. To achieve this, the bank has set out its path for monetary policy, and at any point, the bank will make adjustments necessary to ensure that this objective is achieved. It is also expected that by that time, the policy rate will also have followed reductions in inflation and settled at around 11%, while effective rates by commercial banks will have followed suit. Reporting from Times, I am Florence Magoa.
The Malawi Communications Regulatory Authority, MACRA, said the country's radio spectrum is congested to allow new entrants in the market. MACRA Director General Godfrey Itai said the development has resulted in a situation where MACRA cannot accommodate new contracts or expansions in the industry. We have the detail in this report.
MACRA Director General Godfrey Itai said his firm has engaged a UK-based firm, Castell Limited, to do an audit of the spectrum and create some space for new operators as well as the expansion of existing operators.
As I said, we now have over 80 licensed broadcasters in the country, and all these 80 broadcasters need frequencies. And to meet such a demand has become more of a challenge to us, and that's why we felt with this congestion we should do a refarming exercise that should help us to be more efficient in the allocation of frequencies, and that's why we're calling for this meeting. The FM band is, once we allocate frequencies, that broadcaster will use those frequencies. Now, having allocated so many, we don't have good spaces where we can offer other channels to other broadcasters. And as you may recall, we actually suspended the exercise pending this exercise. We have called a consultant who should help us in how best we can utilize the frequencies the country has, because the frequencies will not increase. Okay? It's the efficient use of the frequencies that can bring in, or rather that can accommodate more broadcasters to be given channels in which they can broadcast through. What we need to know is we need to have a map of Malawi with the frequencies and frequencies that are located. At the moment, we do not have accurate data in terms of the frequencies that have been assigned and how far such frequencies are being used. So for us to know how far these frequencies are used, it's only better that we do a refarming exercise, because that is going to reveal the gaps that are there, and then we can use those gaps for the benefit of the country in terms of allocating the same to more broadcasters.
Castell Limited Managing Director Dawood Modka said the audit will help bring sanity onto the spectrum.
As I think the Director General of MACRA mentioned, there are at the moment not so many accurate database, and they're not, perhaps the things are not used as efficiently as they should be. So our plan is basically to look at what it is today you've got, and then based on that, and of course we need a lot of help from the broadcasters to make sure that we've got the right accurate data, and then we're going to actually use very powerful planning tools, which we then start looking at different scenarios in terms of replanning, creating as many channels as possible, and then based on that we say, okay, now the overcrowding, trying to actually get rid of the overcrowding by actually introducing more channels, as well as reducing the amount of interference that potentially is there. So the data that we get, initial data we get from broadcasters, are essential and very important to our further work that we do in terms of replanning the whole network. First part is in terms of how long it's going to take, very much depends on the information, the amount of time it's going to take us to get the information. So we're going to actually work on that and focus on that particular issue, particular thing, because if we don't have the right data, we're going to put rubbish in our planning tool and get rubbish out. So that is the essential, that's the one that's going to take time, and therefore we rely very much on the broadcasters, as well as of course MACRA, to provide us information as soon as possible. We're going to verify those data. We're going to come back here again in about 4 or 5 weeks' time to actually verify the data. Once we are sure that the data is correct, then we're going to start actually turning the handle. Turning the handle is probably an easier part of the process. So to answer your question, it's difficult to say how long it's going to take, but we've actually allowed about 3 months from Monday to finish the project. But it may be shorter, depending on how fast we get the responses, how quickly we get the responses back from the sources that we are actually seeking to get the information from.
Reporting from Blantyre, this is Dawonga Sabola.
Local manufacturers have been urged to intensify efforts towards increasing productivity and lowering trade deficit, which continues widening. Malawi continues suffering from a negative trade balance due to appetite for foreign goods and continued reliance on imported inputs for production. According to the Reserve Bank of Malawi's 2018 third quarter economic report, Malawi's trade balance worsened in the third quarter of 2018 as imports growth outpaced exports. We caught up with Malawi Investment Trade Center's Director of Investment, Promotion and Facilitation, Joshua Ntakoma, for an insight on incentives made to narrow the gap.
The workshop we organized for this morning is essentially a process that we deliberately came up with, a concept we came up with some 3 years ago to engage private sector. We started this 3 years ago or so, and we go sector by sector. We have, like this one, this is the second one, we're engaging the manufacturing sector, where we bring private sector companies in the manufacturing sector, but then we also bring government companies, the strategic government entities. You know, Immigration, Malawi Revenue Authority, ESCOM. Some don't necessarily present Malawi, the Ministry of Trade, the National Planning Commission, the reforms. We bring them together so that government should be updating the private sector on things that it is doing to enable the private sector, to enable business. development. But then also, it is also to hold private sector accountable. What are you doing in response? Because government has done a lot, in terms of enabling the environment, enacting policies, legislations, administrative procedures, institutional reforms. But on the ground, we see that private sector also doesn't respond as effectively. But anyway, the point is to build a strong relationship. We're not pointing fingers here. We want to build a strong relationship between the two sectors, private sector and the government. Mm-hmm. The government now realizes that it is simply facilitated. Gone are the days when the state was in charge of investment, of putting investment in the ground. Now all government does is put the framework in place. The private sector is supposed to move.
Remember, this is Business Time right here on Times Television. It is a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines, courtesy of Skyband. And my name is William Kumwembe. We'll be right back.
Now you can access the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes. Go to www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper. It's about time.
Welcome back. The Financial Intelligence Authority and the Conference of Western Attorneys General on Monday engaged legal practitioners on measures towards addressing money laundering in the country. At the workshop, Financial Intelligence Authority Director General Atuweni Ajimoji said an assessment conducted in 2018 shows that there is a gap on how magistrate court judges preside over the cases. We have the detail in this report by Chimwemwe Mangazi.
During the launch of a training workshop for the magistrates in Lilongwe on Monday, FIA Director General Atuweni Bemoji said the development follows an assessment that was conducted in 2018, which revealed that there is a gap on how magistrates preside over cases and how prosecutors investigate and present cases in the court.
Laws are not retrospective. There is no way that cases that happened before the new law came into being can be tried under the new law. That is why cases are being tried under the old law. There is nothing strange about this. This is common practice in law. Cases that happened before February 2017, when the new law was passed, are tried under the old law because that was the law that was in effect at the time the offense was committed. So all cash gate offenses are falling under the old law. The question, however, is that once these people are convicted and there was property, will that property be seized under the new law or under the old law, because the old law is no longer in existence?
Board member of the Africa Alliance Partnership, Marcus Green, an affiliate of the CWAG, said their aim in the project is to coordinate efforts in fighting transnational crimes that involve human trafficking and terrorist financing.
We're here in Lilongwe to do a 2-day seminar on money laundering and asset forfeiture. The importance of the program is to work towards fighting transnational crimes. So we know that crimes that involve terrorism, crimes that involve human trafficking, crimes that cut across borders, one of the key components of these crimes is the ability by criminals to hide money, to be able to take money received through an illegal means and make it look legitimate. And that's the whole idea behind money laundering. So for the next 2 days, we brought 2 experts in from the US. We want to work with the judiciary to talk about how best to handle these cases. We want to share best practices. We want to have a conversation, because CWAG recognizes that we live in a global village, right? What impacts the United States impacts Malawi, so on and so forth.
Justice Chifundo Kachale, who presided over the launch of the training, lauded the 2 institutions for the initiative, stressing that it will clear the mist that was there over the use of the new Financial Crimes Act.
The new law has already taken effect, and the law will have to be applied in our courts. It is very important that the people sitting in those courts are made aware of the changes in that law. For example, we now have civil forfeiture or civil confiscation, whereby in the old law you could only confiscate illicit proceeds if there had been a conviction. And that is a radical departure in the enforcement of the law that deals with the issues of money laundering in our jurisdiction. We all need to be aware of the issues that may arise in that process and make sure that we are able to apply the law effectively as judicial officers.
In 2017, Parliament passed the Financial Crimes Act. From Lilongwe, I am Chimome Mangazi.
Salima-based Noria Katungwe has emerged champion in the Total Malawi's Startup of the Year Challenge for 2018. For emerging the winner, Katungwe went home with 10.5 million kwacha. She explains how she feels.
Katungwe said she was happy to emerge winner of the Startup competition, which started last year.
Honestly, I'm amazed. It's something I didn't expect. Yeah, sometimes you can have a crew, you can feel it. Yeah, as much as we all had nice ideas, we all expected something positive. But I feel so excited. I feel very honored, humbled, and I'm excited for this opportunity and for this award. Okay, so Moringa Women Project is addressing two things. The first part is addressing malnutrition, where we are bringing awareness to the community. That's Malawi at large and the community where we are piloting our project in, which is Salima. And the other part, we are also trying to increase the women's income. Apart from that, we are addressing the business aspect of it, where we are empowering the women to increase their income through providing and supplying moringa through a factory that we are setting up.
Chief Judge of the contest, Kao Chokoto, said more needs to be done to ensure that the startup businesses do not die a natural death.
Yes, I think, look, the 15 last projects that were presented to us through pitches were very good. It's not easy to pick the top three, but I do think the top three did brilliantly. So all the projects were already above average. Now you're taking the above average to be above average of the average. That wasn't. But I think there's a lot of initiative by the young people. They want to do things, so they need more, support from industry, from those who have experience to help them in the startup.
Total Malawi Managing Director Salamata Bao said the company is impressed with the quality of projects presented during the contest.
So the competition was very exciting. We had a lot of applicants, like more than 385 applicants, which is a great increase compared to the previous edition. And we selected 15 people, 15 contestants, and they pitched it in front of a jury, and it led to 3 main winners. I have to say that the 15 contestants were great. All the projects were very interesting, exciting, all addressing real challenges that we face here in Malawi. So it was really a great experience. So Startupper is really for us to empower the youth. Like I said, we have so many challenges in our economies, especially in African economies. We need to empower people to create jobs, to create companies that will address the real challenges we face and really have an impact in the communities. So that's the whole idea behind Startupper Challenge.
This was the second time for Total Malawi to organize the Startupper competition. 4 times in Blantyre. This is Taonga Sabola.
Now, in other business news, Old Mutual Malawi on Tuesday donated assorted items worth 10 million kwacha to the Department of Disaster Management Affairs in the Ministry of Homeland Security to go towards flood victims. Old Mutual Group Chief Executive Officer Edith Chia said, as a responsible corporate citizen, the company decided to assist to reduce the suffering of flood victims. We have the whole story in this report.
Chia said Old Mutual was touched to see on television, as well as hear on radio, the suffering of various people due to the floods.
This was Old Mutual's response. We have learned through the media and through what has happened around us that our fellow Malawians in various communities have suffered quite a lot of extensive damage. Some have lost their lives, some are injured as a result of the heavy rains and floods that the country has experienced. As a responsible citizen, this was our response. We couldn't just stand by. We thought that we should contribute any little thing that we can do. Today we are contributing 10 million Malawi kwacha worth of food items and other necessary items that are necessary for relief in such a circumstance. The items that we're donating include the ufa, cooking oil, likuni pala, some sugar. We also have soya pieces and some fish, dried fish, for the people that are currently staying in the camp. In our estimate, our little contribution will reach out to about 500 families. Yes, indeed, it is our request as a responsible citizen. We're also urging those who are able to and those that can at this point to do anything that they can do to alleviate the suffering of our fellow Malawians that have been affected by these floods.
Minister of Homeland Security Nicholas Dausi thanked Old Mutual for the gesture.
On behalf of the State President, Professor Peter Mutharika, and on behalf of our ministry, and on behalf of the Malawians that are suffering in the areas that have been hard hit by floods, hailstorms, and the incessant downpour that resulted in 2 people losing their lives and infrastructure, houses. These people are now heaped in various camps and needs a lot of help and support in the humanitarian assistance. On behalf of those people, I want to sincerely and profoundly thank Old Mutual for this timely donation. They couldn't have done it at the right time than this one. We would want to request other well-wishers to emulate the good example that Old Mutual has done to us and to the country. And we would want to promise Old Mutual that we will put to good use and give the intended beneficiary of whatever we have been given here. It's a check amounting to 10 million, substantial. And we think that in all the camps spread across the disaster areas that affect districts like Cheu, Dedza, Mangochi, Machinga, Balaga, Zomba, Mulanje, Palombe, Chilazulu, Mwanza, Neno, Sanje, Chikwawa, Blantyre, in all those areas, we want to make sure that people, those that are in dire need, are given prompt assistance.
At least 56 people died due to the floods which hit Malawi between the 3rd and the 7th of March. For Times in Blantyre, this is Tawanga Sabola.
Now, moving on to the budding entrepreneur segment. What you wear has the ability of making your day better or not. The style, cut, color needs to pop and fit into your duties too. So just how do you make sure it fits into your budget as well as that of your designer? Robert George Mwamadi of Che Mwamadi Designs gives an insight on how he's making ends meet through fashion and design while meeting the customer's needs.
Right now it's on its peak. There is money, there is a lot of activity going on. There's all these fashion shows, all these the Buy My Malawi campaign, all these civil servants wanting clothes. So it's a very, very fast moving enterprise right now. Competition is good. Competition is very good because competition makes you to be creative. Competition makes you to be on top of your game. You control your quality and everything. So the way I handle the competition is quality control and uniqueness. I'm very, very unique and particular with my kind of clothes. So I think that's what sets me apart. So we are partnering with the Buy Malawi campaign. Sadly, there's a lot of impact, there's a lot of negativity in the sense that everybody wants quality. Sadly enough, we don't have companies that are producing quality fabric for us to use. So in as much as people want to buy Malawi, but then the quality is not enough. I mean, the quality does not come to their standard. That is why you see all these fabrics coming in, all these clothes coming in from Tanzania, Ghana, and elsewhere, because people want quality. And if we were to have a company that actually produce quality fabric, I think then Buy Malawi would be a success and would be a 110% concept. Okay, on average, like I've said, that we get money on a daily basis. For now, with my 2 tailors, I charge 10,000 for per outfit. Whether it's a dress or pants, it's 10,000 now. 2 tailors, each of them is supposed to do 2 to 3 outfits in a day. So in a day, that means that if they do, that's 4 outfits in a day, or if they're simple, that's 6 outfits in a day. So yeah, people can do the math. If every day I'm getting 6 outfits out, and then at 10,000, then that's my daily income. Yeah, I see my business becoming a brand. I franchise actually, because for now it's just more of the clothing line, but then more of the clothes. But over time, I intend to go into shoes. I intend to go into bags. I intend to go into jewelry. So yes, I see it becoming a brand and actually a franchise over time.
Well, with that story, we've also come to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time right here on Times Television. It is a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. But always remember, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. Bye for now.
Now you can access the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes. Go to www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper.